let's continue our recorded session about lesson 2 in chapter 1 in Science, Technology and Technology book. The name of the lesson, How to Think Like a Scientist, okay? As we know, what's meant by scientific attitude? Scientific attitude mean a logical way of thinking clearly without disturbance or preconception, okay? And also scientific attitude means not accepting any data, any evidence, any fact without proof. Scientists possess many scientific attitudes, like number 1, curiosity, number 2, honesty, number 3, creativity, number 4, open-mindedness, number 5, skepticism, number 6, ethics, number 7, awareness of bias. And we know the meaning of each one, of each attitude, okay? And we have example for each attitude, okay? Let's continue our talking about attitude, scientific attitude. Number 6, ethics. What's meant by ethics? Ethics, the rules that enable people to know right from wrong. The rules that enable people to detect right from wrong. Example, when the scientists test a new medicine, new vaccine, okay, they should to inform volunteers of the medicine's risk or vaccine risk before allowing them to take a part in tests, okay? So this is a good ethics. Number 7, awareness of bias, okay? A scientist is objective if he doesn't allow his feeling and biases to affect his recording, observation, and conclusion, okay? So we have different kind of bias: personal bias, culture bias, and experimental bias. What the difference between them? Personal bias comes from person's likes or dislike, okay? For example, if you like a dog as a pet, okay, you think that all people like dog. But if you hate a cat, okay, maybe you think all people hate cats. This is known as personal bias because it comes from likes or dislikes, okay? Culture bias comes from the culture in which person grow up that affect on his opinion, okay? So this is known as culture bias. Experimental bias is a mistake in the design of the experiment that makes a particular result more likely, okay? So the scientist that has experimental bias maybe make a mistake in design of his experiment, okay, to obtain a particular result, okay, from his experiment. This is known as experimental bias. So generally the scientist is or should be objective and not allow his feeling and biases to influence is his recording, observation, and conclusion. Now we will talk about scientific reasoning. Find a scientific reasoning for some facts and some facts and some, okay? Number 1, what's it mean by scientific reasoning? Using logical way of thinking based on gathering data and evaluating evidence, okay? So, using logical way of thinking and based on gathering data, collecting data, and evaluating, make a comparison between observation and the conclusion, okay? This is mean scientific reasoning, okay? So, the person who think or who use scientific reasoning should to use logical way of thinking and this thinking based on collecting different data and comparing many observation, many conclusion. Okay, this is mean. This is person think by scientific or use scientific reasoning in when he think. Okay, we have two types of scientific reasoning. We have objective reasoning and subjective reasoning. Okay, what the difference between them? Objective reasoning make a decision and draw conclusion based on available evidence, okay? But subjective reasoning make a decision and draw a conclusion based on personal feeling, okay? So when you make a decision and draw a conclusion based on available evidence, based on what do you observe, okay, this is known as objective, okay? But if your decision or your conclusion based on your feeling, this is known as subjective reasoning, okay? For example for objective reasoning. Scientists thought chimps ate plants only. However, Jane Goodall observed chimps eating meat, okay? And based on this observation and based on this evidence, she put objective reasoning. So she concludes that chimps can eat meat and eat plants. The example for subjective reasoning, if you see a clear stream come out of in the wood, you might think that you might drink because you thought that this water is clean. However, this water might contain microorganisms. You can't see them, so it's unsafe to drink. So your conclusion based on what do you feel, okay? So this is known as subjective reasoning, okay? And also we have many examples for objective and subjective reasoning. Like what? For example, objective reasoning. Jane Goodall in the first lesson saw a chimp chewing on wet leaves. She reasoned that chimps sometimes used leaves to drink water. This is objective, okay? Because this is based on evidence. Another example for objective reasoning. Emily is 1.2 meter tall. No one else in the class taller than 1 meter. So Emily is the tallest one in the class. This is objective because it depends on available evidence. But subjective reasoning, like what? For example, I like to run. I must be the fastest person in the class. This is subjective because it's based on feeling. I dislike dogs. Dogs must be the least friendly animals. This is my opinion. So it's subjective reasoning. Okay? And we classified scientific reasoning by using another way. Okay? Deductive reasoning and inductive reasoning. Okay? Deductive, a way to explain a thing by starting with the general idea, then applying idea to specific observation. Okay? Like what? Earthquakes should happen mostly where the plates or the layer of the Earth's surface meet each other. This is general idea. I know that California has many earthquakes. Okay, so I will try to relate general idea to specific case I am investigating. Okay. Number 3, California must be near a place where plates meet each other. So I apply general idea to a specific case to reach a conclusion. Like, for example, another example. If you know that all metals are good conductor of electricity. Okay? And number 2, nickel is a metal. So, according to general idea, nickel is a good conductor of electricity. So I use general idea and apply it to a specific observation, and finally I reach to a conclusion. This is known as deductive reasoning, deductive scientific reasoning. The second one, inductive reasoning, okay? A way to use specific observation to make generalization. Okay? For example, suppose you note that leafcutter ants follow other ants along specific paths to search for food and water. Okay? So this is her observation. From this observation, you conclude that these ants must communicate to able to follow the same path. Okay? This is conclusion based on your observation. Okay? So this is known as inductive reasoning. Okay? So We have many examples for inductive and deductive reasoning. Okay, another example. Number 1, turtles have shells. They must use shells for protection. This is deductive or inductive? This is inductive because I observe it, the shell, and I guess this shell used for protection. Number 2, a bottle has frozen. It must be below 0 degrees Celsius outside. This is deductive because I used I know that the water freeze at 0 degrees Celsius, and when I saw bottle has frozen, I predict the temperature outside less than 0 degrees Celsius. So I use general idea, I relate general idea to specific case and reach to conclusion. Because of gravity, everything that goes up must come down. Okay, deductive because gravity is general idea. So I apply this idea to specific case. Many birds fly toward the equator in fall. Birds prefer warm weather, inductive, because I observed the migration of the birds, okay, during winter, so I can have my conclusion based on what I observe, okay. The last type, faulty reasoning, okay, but scientists frequently use inductive reasoning. They collect data and reach to a conclusion based on collecting data. The last one, faulty reasoning. If you draw a conclusion based on too little data, your reasoning might lead you to the wrong general idea or to the wrong conclusion, okay? Because it depends on a little data, okay? Thank you. Grade 7 for your good listening. Goodbye.